Let me convey my thanks to Geislich and Dr. Istvan. Dr. Istvan, to have you hosting a session where I speak, it's a dream come true for me. The principle in my surgical practice has always been, whatever the procedure, don't compromise on the protocol. Some steps are non-negotiable, and that is what I would like to share with you today. The checklist manifesto for bone grafting, especially GBR in dental implants, how to get things right. The ILO is, we follow the past principle. P is primary wound coverage, tension-free closure. A is angiogenesis, adequate blood supply, intermarrow penetration. S stands for space creation, maintenance, exclusion of unwanted bacteria and cells. S stands for stability of wound, graft, and the implants. How do we achieve this ideal goal? Step by step, which we will see through. Evaluate your patient first. CBCT, it's extremely important, gives us the 3D quality and quantity of the host and recipient side, tells us the amount of corticocancellous components, presence of vital structures, and the bone density. If you do not have a CBCT in your clinic, ask the radiologist for all these reports. Diabetes is a silent killer of our procedures. So in case of diabetic patients, check for blood sugar random and PP. We don't want HbA1c because we don't want an average of 3 months. We want the sugar to be normal at the day of the surgery. Autoimmune disorders, I'm really scared of them. Speak to the patient of the possibility of resorption and failure. Aspirin, I love these patients because they have great angiogenesis. So I stop them only if the physician has warned me about it. Vitamin D is not a problem in Western countries, but in East Asia, in Eastern countries, every second person is deficient. So build it by injections or oral therapy to 30. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. For sinus lifts, allergic acute sinusitis is an issue. So you must treat it before. What is the pre-surgical on-site preparation you have to make? Prepare the site for the grafting procedure. Oral prophy is a must. We have in India a lot of patients who are betel nut chewers or pan chewers. So we need to do this oral prophy 2-3 times to get the gingiva healthy. And in case of vertical augmentation, I prefer to build my attached gingiva about a month and a half before with a free gingival connective tissue graft from the palate. A recent proponent which is gaining popularity is injecting IPRF, that's injectable PRF, in the site of the procedure about 3 weeks before, which you can see from the video. And the last picture shows you that infiltration, the pinpricks. It's as simple as that. Just infiltrate IPRF at the surgical site, possibly when you do the extractions and when you're preparing the ridge. What it does is, it disturbs the periosteum and it increases the angiogenesis in that area, as well as it introduces the growth factors, which is good for the invasion of osteoblasts and fibroblasts. Coming to the incision always has to be more palatal or lingual to include more attached gingiva in the labial or buccal flap. Keep it 6 to 10 millimeters away from the surgical field so that the flap rests on healthy bone. Take a full thickness flap because the hero of our show is always the periosteal blood supply. And take a wide flap so that we get better visibility. We retract gently, disturbing the periosteum less, and that also causes less postoperative edema for the patient. Periosteal release is a very, very important step, mobilizing the flap. Do it before you start the actual grafting. Measure the extent of the release by placing wet cotton equal to the amount of graft you're going to place on the site. Allow the flap to fall in place. If it falls passively and meets the palatal or the lingual flap easily, then you have released enough periosteum. Otherwise, if you have to stretch it, mobilize the flap even more. Flaps under tension open up, leading to graft exposure, contamination, and subsequent rejection. Intraoperative, what do you have to be careful about? Make the defect saucer shape with no sharp edges. Smoothen the sharp edges at slow speed with a round diamond burr. Making it smooth and saucer shape, it enables intimate contact of the graft with the recipient site. Intermarrow penetration or harnessing the cancellous blood supply is very important. So that's called decortication. Use a 2 millimeter small round carbide burr. Wait for 5-10 minutes for the bleeding to start from the cancellous bone. Then start your grafting. We need autogenous bone because we need to make new bone, right? So I prefer the autogypt bone drill. It gives me autogenous bone of uniform sizes. Try to use bone from the same arch. So if you're doing maxilla, use the tuberosity. If you're using the mandible, use the retromolar area. In GBR, I prefer particles of larger size, 0.5 microns, so that there is good capillary network formation between the particles. Mixing the powder with IPRF or APRF gives me sticky bone, which makes it easier to adapt. How much of autogenous do you use? More the loss of cancellous, more the need for bovine and autogenous. External grafting sites like GBR, I use autogenous 30 to 40% and bovine bone 70 to 60%. Internal grafting sites like sinus lips, it's an intact four-wall defect. I would use just bovine bone or even a bone substitute like an alloplast. Rigid fixation of the graft in place is very, very important. In GBR, it is done by fixing a collagen membrane on top. Stretch the collagen membrane, fix it with tack screws or stabilizing sutures. PRF gives us an invincible edge. It adds growth factors like platelets, leukocytes, beta-1, which enhances the formation of osteoblasts, fibroblasts, and which improves the angiogenesis. Grafting should always be done in layers. Autogenous is the base, touching the crest or the ridge. Cover it with the bovine bone, which is long resorbing. I cover it with a PRF membrane. Stretch a collagen membrane on top. Fix it with tack screws. For added invincibility, I add one more PRF membrane on top, and then the flap sits in place. In ridge expansion, flatten the ridge to get a good purchase point. Leave the last expander in position and then start expanding the second. Leaving the last expander in the first osteotomy prevents the collapse of the just expanded buccal cortical plate. Wait for a minute for the expansion to settle down and then go on to the next osteotomy. In ridge split, create a table again to get a purchase point. The horizontal cuts by piezo or a disc should be the same depth as the implant height. The vertical cut should be 60% shorter. The implant drills should go, the first pilot drill goes in full length, subsequent drills till the final drills go in 10% shorter. An inferior cut, a slight wedge is allowed and necessary to prevent fracture at the basal bone level when you're swinging the buccal plate outwards. And never forget, guys, to support the lingual and the palatal cortical plate when you're using the chisel to swing the buccal plate out. Finally, we come to the closure. In closure, make sure you have given the apical mattress suture. This is the most important suture. It adapts the flap tightly against the graft, prevents hematoma formation, prevents anaerobic pocket formation, prevents dead space formation in the area of the mobile mucosa. So give it as high as possible above the attached gingiva, between the attached gingiva and the mucobuccal fold. And what is important, as you can see in the bottom pictures, stop the braided sutures, only monofilament, and don't give removable prosthesis how much ever the patient demands, because pressure of the labial flange is going to cause resorption of the graft. What are the complications? Complications are membrane exposure. The early membrane exposure within 3 to 4 days would be a small corner of the membrane. You can just open 1 or 2 sutures, undermine the flap again, resuture after you have flushed that exposed membrane with betadine and antibiotic solution. If you get delayed scar tissue formation, as you can see from the picture, where the flap has pulled away and the membrane is exposed almost 80%, then it is advised to take the membrane out, curate the infected bone graft, curate the underside of the flap, resuture, re-enter if the patient agrees after 3 to 4 months. Sometimes the graft resorbs. It can be due to poor host response, poor immune response on part of the host. Think of graftless solution. So what has been my takeaway from this presentation? Contour the defect and decorticate. Soak membrane in metronidazole solution rather than saline, because I believe it gives me a good antibacterial shield. Layer the graft, always autogenous is gold, bovine is platinum standard. Wait 3 minutes between expanders. Post-operative care, no chlorhexidine because it inhibits fibroblast formation, betadine mouthwash, and always put the patient on anti-allergy drugs. Inclusion of PRF has added benefits, and tension-free primary closure is a must. The title of this presentation was inspired by this book, The Checklist Manifesto by Dr. Atul Gawande, who's a very famous and my favorite author who has written very good books like The Emperor of Maladies and this book, of course. What does he say? Checklists provide reminders of only the most critical and important steps that even the most highly skilled professionals could miss. So this was a checklist for GBR. Let's try this. I would like to thank my family for standing behind me all times, aiding me in my personal and professional growth. I love representing India everywhere. I love presenting what Indian dentists are capable of. And a short message to female practitioners. Yes, we can have it all if we say A stands for ambition, L for learn, L for love. So thank you, namaste from India. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashwini, for your presentation. Very comprehensive presentation, very good. I have a couple of questions. Basically, we don't have a lot of time, but in terms of the ridge splitting, you presented a series of techniques. What is your experience with ridge splitting in terms of complications? Do you ever see any complications like failing of the segment or?
Ridge splitting, what can happen is that the segment can get dislodged. So that usually happens if you make the inferior cut through and through. So the inferior cut should be just a wedge And that's the purpose of even making the vertical cut 60% shorter. This prevents the buccal cortical plate from coming out like a block bone. And of course, primary closure. So I've had complications where the buccal cortical plate got separated at the time of the surgery itself, almost like a block bone. So then I realized that taking the vertical cut 60% shorter and making that inferior edge allows me to swing it because of the green stick fracture. And of course, a collagen membrane on top, tightly, primary closure, excellent postoperative oral hygiene, and then you have
no longer failure in terms of failing the segment, like over time. Do you ever have that thing?
in sandwich augmentation. I'll do the sandwich augmentation in between the implants.
Okay.
If the ridge is too thin, I may not place the implants. I may just expand the ridge, do a ridge split, pack bioos and autogenous bone in between, and do a primary closure, and I get that. And the indication for this would be a ridge, say, less than 3 millimeters.
Thank you very much. Thank you.